Joining us now, Joe DiGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
We have, regarding this census question on citizenship, the Justice Department announced yesterday that they have a new legal team because in an effort to get this on the census, this question with James Burnham will no longer be heading the efforts in the census case. Is this a smart move, and is it going to change anything?
Well, I don't know if it's smart or not, but it's apparently they thought it was necessary after this telephone call that was reported on the other day, where the Justice Department didn't seem to have any answers for the judge at a point in the proceedings where they should have. So apparently the communication between the White House and the Justice Department had broken down, and they gave some answers during the proceeding that were quite unacceptable. And I think there was a consultation with the White House, and they decided they needed to send new lawyers in with a clean slate. Whether or not will make any difference remains to be seen. Let's remember why we're here. We're here because the Supreme Court ruled that asking a question about citizenship on the regular census was perfectly proper and constitutional. However, said Chief Justice Roberts, vote number 5, he said, we're not sure about the reason that was given. And then he proceeded to say, let's send it back to the lower court to find out what the, quote, real reason was. Well, you know what? That doesn't matter. And the Chief Justice knew it, and this is a finger in the eye of the President of the United States, and Justice Roberts has really become a legal pest. And this ruling was just Obamacare light, where he was the fifth vote to sustain the constitutionality of Obamacare. This time, he thought he'd screw the president on something that would be, in his view, Robert's view, relatively innocuous, but it is deadly serious because it ends up deciding how many representatives each state gets in the House of Representatives. So nice work, Chief Justice Roberts. He continues to be a little putz.
There was an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal this weekend, or on July 4th, rather, by David Rivkin and Gilson Gray, writing about how citizenship can be put into the census by a different rationale. That rationale being that the 14th Amendment requires an understanding of how many citizens exist in a state in order to enforce the 14th Amendment. In fact, citizen is specifically named in that 14th Amendment. Is that a good rationale, and should the Trump administration use it?
The answer is it's a perfect rationale, and one wonders why it wasn't in the original arguments made by the Civil Division of the Justice Department. I have no idea why it wasn't made, but it's a superb argument, and I would be making it, yesterday. David Rivkin writes some great stuff for the Wall Street Journal, very smart guy, and he's right on the money on this. But that's the point about all this. This is about representatives. This is about how many people does California have? And if 2 million of California's residents, at least 2 million, are illegal, but they're being counted for purposes of how many people you get in the House of Representatives, that's wrong. That's unconstitutional. And that seems to have escaped the Chief Justice. By the way, I keep talking about Chief Justice Roberts because this was a vindictive act. His vote was an abusive, vindictive act against the President of the United States. Make no mistake about it. John Roberts does not like Donald Trump. Okay, John, we got it. We got the message. Don't send him a Christmas card next year. But how about acting like a judge? This was an embarrassment what the Chief Justice did.
We also have U.S. District Court Judge George Hazel, who ordered on Friday that a case can go forward on whether that question can be added to the census. And he said it's going to focus on whether the Trump administration was, quote, steeped in discriminatory motive. And it allows them to bring in these papers from Thomas Hoffler. There seems to be a lot centering on these files that were discovered by his daughter. Are these important? Why are these important? Why are we spending so much time and energy on these files?
The Chief Justice did what he did was because these files were found and produced in a lawsuit, and they allegedly so that he was recommending to the administration that they put the citizenship question on because it would help the Republican Party. Now, all of a sudden, this becomes a discriminatory motive. No, it's a political motive, and a political motive is not an unconstitutional motive for doing anything, as long as it's not based on discriminating against individuals on the basis of race. this is notwithstanding that the court ruled that the question of citizenship is constitutional. They said it in their opinion. So going to motive seems to be ridiculous, especially since the citizenship question actually already exists on what they call the long-form census form. That form will be sent out along with the short form, and it's already on the long form. The only question is whether or not you put it on the form that, quote-unquote, everybody gets, including illegals. This only in America does this happen. The answer is the stuff from the guy's files is interesting. It's good stuff for newspaper articles. It's absolutely irrelevant constitutionally. But apparently, John Roberts said, let's have some fun and screw up something else that the president wants to do.
Joe, I want to ask you about a developing legal story from over the weekend. Billionaire financier Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on Saturday in New York. He stands accused by the government, we should see those charges unsealed today, of luring girls to his Manhattan mansion in the Upper East Side as young as 14 years old to sexually abuse them. This man's been in the news for many years for this reason, allegedly sexually assaulting young girls. And originally there was a 2008 attempt to go after him, but he achieved a plea deal negotiated in part with Alex Acosta, now the Labor Secretary of the United States under President Trump. And that plea deal allowed him to get off on 2 prostitution charges in state court. He served just a year in Palm Beach jail, most of which he was able to leave the jail on a daily basis on work release. What do you make of that original plea deal and the fact that Jeffrey Epstein's been arrested now?
I think the original plea deal was a disgrace and an embarrassment to the Obama Justice Department and the Bush Justice Department. I mean, all of them who were responsible for that, really a disgraceful act of plea bargaining. It was clearly some influence that was wielded. Acosta's previous law firm, where he had been a partner, was representing Epstein. Apparently, they had some unknown meetings with Acosta, which led to this decision where he basically palmed it off on the state prosecutor, who apparently the lawyers also had relationships with that prosecutor, and they were able to get this ridiculous plea deal. That is now being looked at by a federal judge because the victims were never apprised of what was happening, and that's a violation of the Victims' Rights Act. But as far as the new charges, these appear to be acts which occurred after that plea deal and after he served his sentence. So this will have nothing to do with that. These are new charges, and it'll be very interesting to see what the allegations are. They clearly found a number of victims, and what went on here was after that plea deal went down, the feds who investigated the case got furious, and they started focusing on him, and they were trailing him. And they tracked him down. They found some of these young victims. They got him to testify, put him in a grand jury, and bingo, here we are again. I don't think Mr. Epstein's going to get the same kind of deal this time.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be very interesting because you have Christine Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, DNC official, saying that it's quite likely that some of our faves are implicated in this horrific case. It's going to be very interesting to see where that goes.
Maybe she knows something that the rest of us don't. If by faves she means other Democrats, perhaps not. Who knows? I mean, we know that Bill Clinton and others were frequent guests of Mr. Epstein, not only in Florida but in his Caribbean estates. Who knows? We shall find out. Perhaps we'll find out even more.
And meanwhile, James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, is believed to be a prosecutor in this case as well against Epstein. So everybody's names keeps getting dragged into all of this. Joe, thank you very much.
Just what the country needs, another Comey.
There you go.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it.
Bye.